Hey kiddies, it's Triple Feature Tuesday once again, and this week we begin our four-part series entitled Tom's Friends Hate Him with Kevin Costner Baseball Movies. So the story behind this is that this year, or in the next 2 years, Channing Tatum, who I don't like to see in movies ever, is making 3 movies with directors that I absolutely love and have to always watch their movies and buy them immediately. He's doing Jupiter Ascending with the Wachowskis, The Hateful Eight with Quentin Tarantino, and Hail Caesar with the Coen brothers. And so eventually there will be that triple feature where I have to devote any sort of time to Channing goddamn Tatum. Thank Christ he's not in a Terry Gilliam or a David Cronenberg movie yet. But in the meantime, my friends have come up with lists featuring 4 other actors and actresses that I really, really don't like at all. And so I'm going to watch movies with them. Because this is what I do for fun. This week, it's Kevin Costner baseball movies, and I just think Kevin Costner is very boring. I never buy into anything he's doing. Don't get me wrong, this does not include Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which for whatever reason totally worked for me. I love that movie and can watch it any day of the week. This could be because Morgan Freeman, Alan Rickman, and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio were, all over the movie, and Christian Slater. 1990 Christian Slater. But if you were to put a gun to my head, I would say the best Kevin Costner performance to date was Big Chill. So, we're going Kevin Costner in baseball. Our menu is going to include Bull Durham, Field of Dreams, and For Love of the Game. Our recurring motifs for these films are each of these movies starts with pictures of people playing baseball and the feeling that America is going wrong because people don't like baseball. And I'll be honest, I like baseball. Of all the sports that are of all the main sports in America, I tend to watch baseball more than any of the others because it's not slow and it's not boring. It's just paced, and things are always happening even if the guy is not hitting a home run every time. That said, none of these movies pass the who cares test in terms of conflict, whether it be external or internal. So hooray for that. Our movies will be going in order of increasing levels of schmaltziness while conversely decreasing levels of quality of the film. And so we start with Bull Durham, which is actually kind of a watchable movie, even though there's no point to it whatsoever. Much like the Tom Cruise character studies, it's all internal conflict. There's no real thing that needs to be done. Yes, Kevin Costner's character, minor league catcher Crash Davis, is supposed to be helping groom Tim Robbins' pitcher Nuke LaLoosh into a major league player because he's got $1 million arm and 5-cent head. It doesn't really matter at all at the end of it. I mean, Nuke seems to be just, able to pick up on things just by being around him as opposed to actually getting into conflict with him. And it's really just about Kevin Costner being a, not necessarily washed up minor league baseball player, but an also-ran that is never going to have his day because, he's all of 33 years old in the movie. Costner is just doing the same. He does the same goddamn thing in every movie. He's just Kevin Costner, and he's just, catching and throwing and hitting. And it's really dull. But it's even worse because surrounding him are 2 really great actors. Tim Robbins, who, if you watch him play this nitwit, I mean, he is just, if he had 2 brain cells rubbed together in this movie, I would be surprised. But then he goes on to be Andy Dufresne in The Shawshank Redemption. Tim Robbins is just an incredible actor. And Also, Tim Robbins' real-life wife, Susan Sarandon, who is just always wonderful, playing a multifaceted baseball groupie, but she's also an English teacher and has all sorts of interesting theories about literature and baseball as a religion. And being an agnostic, it's as interesting an idea as any of the others that I've heard. Why not worship baseball? Go for it. It's as good an idea as anything else. And Kevin Costner. I will admit, he's got a bunch of good lines. When he explains what he believes in, that scene's actually pretty good. The movie, written and directed by Ron Shelton, based on his own experiences in the minor leagues of the Baltimore Orioles organization. It plays more like just a series of episodes as opposed to an actual movie, and you can tell this because, Nuke goes to the majors, and there's still 20 minutes of movie, and nobody really cares. I mean, Kevin Costner ends up with Susan Sarandon, but you knew they were going to from the minute, so when it actually does happen, there was nothing really in the way of it, and so, who cares? Ugh, and this is the best one on the triple feature. God. A lot of people like Phil Alden Robinson's Field of Dreams. I like Phil Alden Robinson, don't get me wrong. He directed Sneakers. Remember Sneakers from last week? James Earl Jones is in this one too. Kevin Costner is a grown-up hippie, novice farmer who starts hearing voices and interprets those voices into building a baseball field in his cornfield. And then ghosts appear, ghosts of baseball players. We have baseball players play. Shoeless Joe Jackson is played by Ray Liotta, because, why not? And the whole movie is basically baby boomer panic. The country has not turned into what they thought it was going to, and this is all being epitomized in people not being into baseball. It's sort of America navel-gazing and completely and seeing, instead of, your own self-worth, the yawning abyss of modern life. And people find this movie very uplifting. Because why not? Because it'll all just work out. Which is the whole point of the movie, is that even though we're going to do things that are completely insane and would at best land you bankrupt and out on your ass in the poorhouse, at worst in an actual mental institution, things will just work out. Because baseball. It's so bad. And yet, in the middle of all of this, you know who's really wonderful in the movie? Amy Madigan. Married to Ed Harris. She was a lot bigger in the late 80s, early 90s. She's an Uncle Buck. She's in The Dark Half. She was on Fringe more recently. But she's really wonderful. And her character, the Kevin Costner's wife, she's just all over the place fun throughout the whole film. And one of the things I do like, or at the very least, I appreciate, amongst all the other cliches they embrace, they avoided this one of the wife threatening to leave because the husband's going nuts, but she's sort of completely on board with everything throughout the whole thing, which it's just nice to see that. I mean, why does every movie have to have, the wife is abandoning the husband or the husband's abandoning the wife? Why aren't they actually ever a team in things? It's been driving me nuts ever since 30 Days of Night. Because in the comic book, Evan and Stella are super duper cop team in Barrow, Alaska. And for pointless reasons, they just broke them up at the beginning of the film. It's never explained why, but that's a completely different triple feature and or movie that I'm talking about, because I just don't want to talk about fucking Kevin Costner movies anymore. I still got one more to do, and it's the worst one. Field of Dreams, there's no real conflict, because things just keep working out. There's so little conflict that they actually shoehorn in one right at the end. Timothy Busfield is playing Amy Madigan's brother, because they both have red hair. And he's forcing them to sell the farm so they, don't end up poor forever. And he ends up accidentally shoving Kevin Costner and Amy Madigan's daughter, played by a very young Gabby Hoffman, off of the bleachers, and it looks like she starts choking and almost dies. Because, I mean, she was never going to die. It's so bad and phony and trite, because she was never going to die. This is not that movie, and then we have to have the ghost of Burt Lancaster fix it. Not the actual ghost of Burt Lancaster playing a ghost, which, dude, Burt Lancaster still had it even in 1989. It was really, really great. Even though, for whatever reason, they had the younger version of Burt Lancaster played by Frank Whaley. And it's like, look, Burt Lancaster had range. He could be good guy to bad guy. Frank Whaley is just a sleazeball. He is kind of the modern version of Harry Dean Stanton. Or, if not modern, just a younger and more photogenic version of Harry Dean Stanton. But either way, Field of Dreams. Hooray, baseball in America and baby boomers. Woo! Oh, for the love of the game, for the love of God. Sam Raimi knows how to make movies. And even though this is just a terrible, terrible movie, it will still never be the worst Sam Raimi movie I've ever seen. Because Spider-Man 3 will never be forgiven. Ever. Kevin Costner is a legit over-the-hill baseball player this time, as opposed to Bull Durham, where he was just really young and it seemed kind of silly. This time he is on the outs. It's filmed. It was made in 1999, so he is old enough to be over the hill, and everything is going wrong for Billy Chappell, Detroit Tigers star pitcher, or at the least former star pitcher, again over the hill. Beloved, on again, off again girlfriend Kelly Preston has just broken up with him, and he found out that the owner of the Tigers has sold the team, and the first order of business is he's being traded, or he could just retire. So either way, his career is sort of over. And now he has to pitch what could be his last game, but either way, it's the game of his career. And it seemed neat for 2 seconds, because I thought the movie was really just going to be about just this one game. And that's something I don't think has ever been done before, or at the very least, I've never seen it, where a movie just takes place in the span of just any sort of sporting event, start to finish, and it's all about that. You know, I assumed there would be like little flashbacks and stuff, but it would be like really focused here. And for 2 minutes it is. And then it's just these extended romance flashbacks with Kelly Preston, Kevin Costner, and Jenna Malone. And it's awful. It's just so trite and schmaltzy. And it was very boring. And it's long. This movie's like 2 hours and 17 minutes long. Why? And, I mean, it's like Sam Raimi. You can see like little touches of like good Sam Raimi, because there's a neat little motif where it gets into the head of Kevin Costner. His how do you focus when you're a pitcher in a Major League Baseball stadium? And he does a very interesting way of demonstrating how you pull that off. And John C. Reilly's in it, and he's wonderful. But it's so boring. Not even once do you care about any of this, because you know who this is going to happen. He's going to retire, and it's going to be big fanfare, and he's going to throw his perfect game, and the girl will love him at the end of the movie, and everything's going to work out. And it takes 2 hours and 17 minutes to get there. Much like the Field of Dreams, where it's just like there's no conflict here. They have him accidentally and off screen cut his pitching hand on a table saw, because whoops, you wouldn't be paying attention with that, because it's your whole career. It's so bad, but somehow he manages to overcome it. And it's a movie that would have been great back in the 40s or 50s, but nowadays it's so bad. And it could have been so much worse. Apparently, they filmed a full frontal nude scene for Kevin. You got to see Kevin's Costner, and it was only because it tested so poorly that Sam Raimi and the producers were able to out-argue him and say, no, For Love of the Game is not the movie in which we need to see full frontal Kevin Costner. I mean, it's a a sports movie. Why do we need full frontal Kevin Costner? Apparently, the test audiences giggled and laughed, which they don't say if it's because of the actual thing they saw or just because it was ridiculous, because this is not that movie. What is the point of it? Oh, God, and what's the point of Kevin Costner movies? It's so boring. Oh, man. Don't watch these movies. I'm taking the hit for you. I'm leaning into the strike zone, and then you guys get to walk onto base, and you don't have to do this. So don't watch Bull Durham. Don't watch Field of Dreams. And for the love of Christ, don't watch For the Love of the Game. It's just terrible. I'll see you next week. Next week it's not going to be... we have to skip a week because Friday the 13th is happening, and we're going to do something interesting for that. So the week after, so I get a little reprieve because I watched all of these Kevin Costner movies in one day, and so next week I get to do fun stuff, and then the week after I get to do Sandra Bullock. So hooray! See you then.